using your costumes in charity aspects, and there's a lot of different things you can do about that. So like I said, I did it for 2 years with a group called Heroic Inc. out of Utah. I'm currently more doing my own thing as I'm navigating and figuring out where I fit in Seattle. You guys are big. There's lots of different things. I'm not sure where my niche is anymore. But I'm looking to finding it, and I thought this would be a great way to continue what I like to do, and that is the cosplay aspects. And now I gotta look at my introduction questions, because now I can't remember them all. How I got started was I had friends who were in Heroic Inc., and I actually have a master's in public administration where I studied nonprofits. So they're like, hey, you seem to care about your community. Do you want to make a costume and join us? And I said, sure, I've always wanted to make a costume. Why not do something good with it? So it kind of really blew up from there in my life. I was giving back to the community before joining and using my costumes to do that in different aspects. So it just became more natural, embracing. I wanted to be a costume designer as a kid, so now I get to do it, and where my life's evolved since then. Something fun or silly. I am obsessed with Monster High dolls. I currently have 104. I don't know if I should be proud of that, being nearly 30 years old, but that is something random and fun about me.
Hi, I am Abby Sue Cosplay on Facebook, and I have been I've been cosplaying for about 5 years now, and before that I made costumes but didn't know what cosplay was. So, you know, it's something that's always been close to me. My day job is actually a graphic designer, so it kind of fits right in there with the creative aspect. And I work with comic book characters for causes for about 3 years now. I'm on the board, I'm their graphic designer, I designed their logo. I mean, I did a lot of this stuff there, so it's very relevant to what I do. I mean, I also work a little bit with Northwest Mutant Academy as well, so we have a little bit of crossover there. We've got a couple of charities that we work with. Usually both of us, of our groups, are involved with children's charities because we feel like the costumes we wear really, the children are just amazing. They love to see us in costume, and it just makes us so happy that we can give back to children's charities, and we go to camps, and the kids are just, they have so much fun around us, and they think we're the characters sometimes, which is amazing. And we've gone to hospital visits as well, and it's just amazing that we can make them so happy when they're in such a bad place, and make them forget where they are for a little while.
As a side note to the kids, you better know that character, because they will question you, and if you don't know anything, they'll be like, I don't think so, you are not Raven. You are not Raven.
You're not Rogue, I don't think so. They really know what's going on, more than we do sometimes. A little bit of funny fact would be that I met my husband at a con about 4 years ago, and we met at a mystery ball. So that was kind of the interesting fun fact.
And just so you ladies know, we're just introducing ourselves still, obviously. So please continue.
You're next.
My turn? Alright. I'm Michelle Paul. I work with costume clubs where I live, and I live in northern Utah. I initially started doing cosplay in 2007, so just regular cosplay at a local convention in Utah. And that was fun, really addicting, and especially since I had social anxiety, and it was really nice. I still have social anxiety, actually, but it was really nice to be able to get out. And when you're in costume, then it's a little easier to like break ground with people if you're in costume, and I love that. And then eventually I found the Mandalorian Works official costuming club, which is a Star Wars costuming club, and I think the 3rd largest. And I found out they had a local chapter, and I was like, I always wanted to make one of those. And it took me a couple of years, but I eventually made it. And then as soon as you got started, the big thing that pushed me into it with the Mandalorian Works was they do charity stuff. It's like, wow, I didn't know you could do cosplay and charity. That is kind of weird, but cool, because I love charity. This is fun. So I joined that. Got approved completely by myself, completely the minds of the current members, because I took them from left field, and it was really funny. And since then, I can't like imagine my life without doing the cosplay for charity. Once you start doing it, you start making friends. That becomes like your social circle outside of your normal social circles, and that's just what you keep doing. So I work mostly with the Mandalorian Mercs, and then the 501st and Rebel Legion. I help them out too sometimes because they're fun people and they're all in it together. And then I also do with Heroic Inc., which is like superheroes and Disney princesses, and it's just been so much fun. And so I've been trying to go out to other states, so that's why I'm here, kind of going out to a different state. And I love Seattle, I have family up here. Funny fact about me, I guess, I don't know, there's nothing funny about me. I'm really sarcastic.
There's tons of funny
I'm
about her.
super sarcastic. Most people don't know if I'm joking, and it's funny because there's another Asian at my work, and he has the same humor where we don't change our tone when we're joking. And so we'll lie to each other just flat face, like the weirdest things. People just watch us like, what are you talking about? What are you, like, really? And we're like, yeah. And they believe everything we say. It's great. I guess we just look like we're trustworthy. I don't know.
Hi, I now go by Mrs. Zane. As a new cosplayer, I couldn't decide on a name and I changed it. Oh, I guess I gotta get closer to the mic. I apologize. So, as I was saying, Missy Lynn was the name that I initially chose, but then I changed it recently to Mrs. Zane because I'm fairly new at this and couldn't figure out what I liked. So, I am from Utah, like her, and I'm also in Heroic Inc. I just recently joined Heroic Inc. in April. I started going to conventions in 2009, going to Anime Bonsai in Utah. I had a great time. I love cosplaying because I don't have social introversion, but I love to be somebody different. Because in my real life, I am a professional, and I have to be professional all the time. So it's really nice to get into cosplay and be somebody that can just have fun. And to be able to use that for charity and for a cause and to make kids smile and to help raise money for different organizations really touches my heart, and I really love doing that. Since I joined Heroic Inc., we were able to go up to Shriners Hospital, which is like an orthopedic hospital. They do a lot of different surgeries on kids. And we were able to take pictures with the kids, and they all dressed up in costumes. We went to a couple bedsides and visited the children, just make their day. We just love it. We went to Free Comic Book Day at one of the local comic book stores, and we were able to see the kids and entertain the crowd, and it was awesome. I had a great time. Like I said, I'm fairly new to this, but I'm learning and trying to get better, and I'm very excited to be here. This is my first time on a panel, so you guys are my first crowd. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, a funny fact about me. A funny fact about me is I like to do things that people don't expect. So I'm 5 foot tall, but I ride a motorcycle, and I'm in the military, so I like to mess with people's heads, I guess.
So a little bit more on what cosplay is. There's many different ways that you can do that. You can help with fundraisers. People in costume attract more money. I've noticed doing things. Some of us have participated in Utah with the Ringing the Bell, and now that was like 2 years ago, so I can't think of the organization, but everywhere. Thank you, Salvation Army. And it was known that we got more money than anyone else because we had costumes. So people would come up and ask, why are you here in costume? It's a great way to bring awareness in addition to fundraising. People are going to be more likely to ask you questions, so make sure if you're going to do this, you know what the organization is and what their mission is, so you can answer some questions, and maybe even have a place you could refer on, like info at whatever website it is. You can do children hospital visits, as you've heard. It's a great way to lift children's spirits. Library events. I'm trying to think of everything that I've done. I've done a lot of different things. Free comic book day, first Saturday in May. If you guys are ever interested, the comic book store has a series of free comics you can go stand in line and get.
Sometimes there's toy stores that have costume events that we can come along to and help bring in. Usually they have a charity that they're actually collecting for, so we're able to help out with that. I know we've had a similar experience where we collected food for food drive or school supplies. So we always get more interest when we're in costume because we have already an icebreaker. So it helps whatever charity we decide to help along with.
There's also, when they have like the fun runs or the 5Ks, Heroic Inc. I know has attended, and we've Mandalorian.
We've
Yeah,
attended
that's
as well. Yeah.
The fun, like the walks for like.
I think we did an MDS or
MDA
walk
with Northwest Mutant Academy did that.
In Bellingham, I think.
We did one for lupus just a while ago. So they're
And me, that was my last heroic
Was that
event.
your last one? Yeah, that was really fun. They, it's just because there are always a lot of kids, and the kids are always like, "It's Batman, he's amazing," and they freak out.
And
like,
one
riot.
reason that costumes do help with walks specifically is we're there to help put smiles on faces and make sure people have a good time. If people have a good time at a walk, they're more likely to talk about it and come back the following year and maybe bring in additional people to help participate. A lot of their revenue to work off for a year as nonprofits are generated from that walk or their fundraising events because it's all donation based or grant based. So you may think, oh, I'm not really helping, but you are helping. You're putting a positive twist on that organization, and that's going to help them in the long run. Does anybody have any questions at this point? Or do you guys have anything else you want to say before we open into questions? Question?
Yes. Comic book characters for causes is something I have a lot of friends who are involved in it. How can we go about joining something like this?
A lot of the times we have an email contact information that you can then get in contact with the main board members or stuff like that. Usually on their page we have the contact information there. You get in contact with them, and usually we usually have to get to know you. A lot of us are actually have, like with comic book characters for causes, we do have our C3, what is
501c3
Yes.
status, which is they're an actual nonprofit organization, and so is Heroic Inc. Mandalorian Mercs just got their status. I'm trying to think of anything else that's representative. I don't think they do. I don't.
So
They didn't mention on their website when I was looking the other day.
a lot of us are a little more professional because of that. So usually there's a little bit of an interview process just to make sure that people aren't like insane.
It also added,
It does.
it adds legitimacy.
Children.
Mhm. So Make-A-Wish is more likely to work with a 501c3 because they are an actual organization. There's the screening process.
Actually, I think we're just 501 right now, not C3 yet. We're in the process, I think. So it's a
To
long
be determined.
process. But we are an official nonprofit for sure, and that just adds a little more legitimacy. Companies and charities would rather work with someone more professional and legitimate like that. And you can definitely get involved, but have to go through the interview process, which is completely fine. And yes, you can contact our page or our email in order to get involved.
And what is that email address, Abby?
I think it's info@cdc.org.
.org?
I'm
gonna look that up.
Double check.
But it is on our page at Comic Book Characters for Causes on Facebook.
So most websites for organizations, they'll say their process. So for Heroic, they have a process that has an application where you can apply, but they also you can be nominated in Utah. So so I was friends with several of the members to begin with, just met them at cons and just kind of hung out with them and Facebook friended and hung out that way. And I was nominated through one of my friends, and then I went to the free comic book day, and was able to meet more of the members. They all voted and decided, okay, we'll let her in as a probationary status. So during the probationary status, you have to attend a certain number of events. People have to see you interacting with the kids and interacting with other people, making sure that you're being appropriate and fun, and that you meet the standards of the group.
And the Star Wars clubs work a little bit differently. They base their application status on your costume. So if you're interested in joining one of those, definitely look at their requirements because they are very, very strict since they are licensed by Lucas. But that's how you get into the Star Wars clubs. It's based off of your costume, and then hopefully the chapter you're looking at is active, or maybe you can see if you can increase their activity. A lot of them, especially in Utah, and I'm kind of biased because that's where I'm from, so I apologize now, but all the groups there do a ton of fundraising. The 501st Legion raised almost $3,000 for Peter Mayhew. I'm like, why can't I name it? For his foundation, which helps people with medical bills. Craig Clan, Heroic Geek, and a few others raised money for MDA and Make-A-Wish, several cons this year, so.
At FantasyCon, the Mercs accidentally raised money. I think we raised $900 on accident because we have a jail cell, and so the Mandalorian Mercs will do a jail bail, so people will pay for his bounty, and we'll go hunt people down and lock them in jail for 5 minutes. It's really fun. We didn't think we were going to do it for this con, and then the Jedi were like, oh, you have a bounty, go get it. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll go arrest someone, that's fun. It's how I want to spend my con. I love arresting people, it's hilarious. So we go and arrest people, and we just accidentally had $900 for the NDA. So, well, yeah, with the costuming clubs, they're a costume club first, and we say that, but pretty much the reason why people join the costuming clubs is because they love Star Wars and they want to do charity. So even though it's a costume club first, like sometimes we have days where we have 2 events and we're trying to like, oh crap, we need to go to 2 events.
That's exhausting, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, and they are pretty strict. Actually, I think the Mandalorian mercs are a little more strict than some of the other costuming clubs if you're doing a canon person, but they're really fun. So if you love Star Wars, those clubs are great. They also have Star Trek clubs and Harry Potter clubs, and all of them are costume clubs first.
Resident Evil even has hives. That's what they
Yes.
dub themselves, hives.
I
And
love
it's
you,
genius.
really
And
cool.
the hives are 501c3 as well.
Okay, that's good to know. It's so much fun.
At least
especially
according to
in
Arizona's
Utah.
hive.
I know for this area we do have a 501st, but I am not involved with it, so I don't know much about them. But for CBCC and Northwest Mutant Academy, we usually team up because we have similar crossover members. But for CBCC at Emerald City, we usually have a booth with a photo studio set up. So we ask for donations for whatever charity we're working for that time. Usually it's either Children's Hospital or Camp Good Times. We work closely with both those charities because we've worked with them before and we have good luck with that. So we usually get pictures with children. Their parents are always just like, this is super exciting, I love you guys. For us, we have a bunch of different comic characters. That's why most of the times we do either Marvel or DC. We're branching out a little bit to maybe Disney now as well because kids really love that. We usually tend to stick to costumes that are more children-friendly at these events, like the X-Men or the Avengers, because kids actually know who they are. And sometimes we have things like the My Little Ponies come in, or sometimes the Sailor Scouts. But we have those come in for a little while, but mostly it tends to be the comic characters currently. But a lot of us have so many interests that we're kind of branching out now.
Any other questions at this point?
You mentioned that you guys work for BBC and Marvel and sometimes Disney customers. How does that work with Disney, Marvel, and DC? Like,
So licensing.
or
We're-
you just how do you avoid
We're not making money off of it, so we're not doing anything wrong. We're raising money and helping out good causes, so it really would make them look like jerks to come and go, cease and desist, jerks. I mean, it really would not be good for them with what we're doing. The minute we start making money for ourselves is when you would run into an issue like that.
And even then, they work with you. I know Disney owns Marvel now as well, and I know that they like to work with charity groups. You just have to get in contact with them and make sure that everything is kosher as well. But they really do like to work with charity groups. They're not against it. They think it's a great thing.
Especially because their market's kids. So.
Pretty much as long as you're not, the big thing with the companies is as long as you're representing them in a positive light, as soon as you step over that line and you start doing something crazy, then it reflects poorly on them and then they'll come after you. But if you're just doing charity work, they don't care.
So making sure that there aren't pictures of you doing inappropriate things
Yeah,
at charity events when you're dressed up like their characters.
Or getting arrested or something at a
Yeah.
hospital. Just, question back there.
So if you, does Heroic Inc. and other groups, do you contact charities, or do you, like, hospitals and other organizations end up looking for you? Like,
When you
how is the connection made?
When you start off, you have to network. That's what I'm doing with myself right now. I'm actually working on a toy drive with BobaCon and Everett for a local homeless shelter so the kids can have Christmas presents. Sorry, you're going to do this, but if you're interested in coming, it's going to be November 29th between 12 and 4.
As soon as,
Toys.
as soon as your club is established pretty well,
then
then
you get
they'll come to you.
But for
And
us,
legal laws.
because we've only just recently become established as CBCC, we have to go to the companies. And usually we've worked with them over the years, so when Camp Good Times, we have a close relationship with them now. And we do cross events with them, so now they come to us. but originally we usually have to go out and contact them. It's a lot of legwork. So it's.
And then my other question, do they want you to dress in a certain character, or do they, you get the choice, you know?
Still looking at that one.
Sometimes.
It
Some they will
depends. It really
request
depends.
specifically, like there are some events where they're like, it's a superhero run, we only want superheroes, no villains, or we only want Disney princesses, or we already have a Disney princess group coming, we only need superheroes. Sometimes they'll be very specific, sometimes they're just like, we just need all the costumers, just come. So
My toy drive is another example. They had a Star Wars event in December, so they were like, no Star Wars. We're going to do that a few weeks later. I don't care what else it is, just no Star Wars. So you do have to respect what they want, and they have a purpose. So
if it's Make-A-Wish, they'll ask for specific characters because it's for a child's wish. So
We have done Make-A-Wish before as well with CBCC, and they requested Avengers because the child that was making the wish really loved Hulk. So he wanted the Avengers to be with Hulk, and he thought it was like super amazing, and they went around with him. I couldn't at the time, but my husband is Thor, and there was a Black Widow, and of course our Iron Man kind of looks like Iron Man, which makes everybody happy. So he was over the moon just to be around the Avengers. But normally we like to list the costumes we have, and if there's specific requests, they will request it of us. But a lot of the times we work it out ourselves. We have an Avengers Day or an X-Men Day because we all have those costumes, and we always have Batman.
with the legwork and everything, the best time is to go to conventions and groups, because then people ask, because people don't know that there are like costumers who will come to their fundraising events, and there's always fundraising events going, and most people would love to have costumers come. So it's pretty much just if you going to conventions and just networking with the people at the conventions. Some of them, there's the costume clubs are getting to the point that they're almost everywhere now, and so you can always find a representative. You just have to network with them and like I've met people and networked with them at the cutting board table at Joanne's when they're like, "Oh, what are you making? Oh, I'm making a costume for this cosplay
Joanne's
club."
a fabulous place
It's
to
good.
be costumers.
There's so many.
And people who are doing fundraisers, we've got networked with some people who want to go do stuff at the hospitals, at the cutting table. It's great.
Or like I've been approached down the street when I was on my way to a photo thing with Salt Lake Comic Con, and I was just walking down the street in my Catwoman costume and had someone say, "Hey, what are you here for? We need people for this," and they took
Carry
down my
business
contact
cards
information.
all the time.
Always
So
have
like,
business
you'd be
cards.
surprised.
Do you have business cards for yourself?
I do, but I had costume malfunction, so I left them all at home.
I have my business cards.
I was so mad when I got here.
They're very nice business cards.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I had a question. I was just curious about the prevalence of men versus women, and whether there's, how much need there is for men, or if it's even hard recruiting
There's a
men.
ton of need for men. Most superheroes are men, most of the known ones.
Actually, with CBCC, we're about half and half, surprisingly. The men tend to go more for a specific character, I've noticed. The women go like all over the place, get all the wigs, we're crazy, and we
All
get
the
like, all the
shoes.
costumes.
All the shoes.
Whereas the guys tend to focus specifically on fixing up their character.
Or
Our
different
Iron
variants
Man-
of that character.
Our Iron Man is Iron Man all the time. Our Thor, he grew his hair out and colored it blonde. I mean, our Captain America, he dyed his hair one time too. They usually are those characters instead of like choosing to be a different character every day. And it's amazing because they're so into that particular character, they look more like the character to the kids, and the kids tend to gravitate more towards our men as like Batman or Thor or Iron Man than sometimes our women's costumes, surprisingly. But we feel like there should be more men that cosplay with us because they do amazing things. And we've had some really good Hawkeyes. I mean, there's really good men's costumes. You guys just come
Utah, I've noticed, is a little more diverse. You do get more men in the 501st Legion
They're
and
mostly in the Star Wars.
then the Star Wars clubs.
Most of the guys in
except
Star
for
Wars.
the Great Clan, the Mercs in.
We're 50-50. We're awesome.
There's more women in that for Star Wars than I think in any other club that I'm aware of or any other chapter. But Heroic Geek's, I think, pretty even.
Yeah, and we have one guy in our in Heroic Inc. He has how many? Eric? How many? Eric has so
You
many.
don't even want to know. He's
Don't
got over
ever ask
100
how many
costumes.
Oh my
and-
God.
And when he does data, people freak out because he looks
Or
almost
he's bored.
exactly like him, and he
Just
has a
like
board
Data.
too. But he's Aquaman, Spider-Man, board,
In 3
Data,
days, he'll
2
do like
types of
7
Data.
different costumes.
Oh my
at a
God.
time.
At a time, he'll have his backpack
Dedicated.
full of suits, and he'll just be like, I'm going to be this from this hour to this hour.
I know.
He could get like 15 minutes notice and be like, wait, I got Superman in the trunk.
He really has to use his costume as a car.
It's off his shirt, there it is.
And he's always coming to events, and it's just like, oh, do you have an Aquaman that can go down the water slide? And then we'll send him down the water slide. And we've done it. We have pictures. It's hilarious. And he made an Aquaman suit just to go down the water slide.
And another thought, sorry, I just remembered, there's actually an increase in mermaid charity groups. I don't know if any of you, they actually have tails and they'll swim. There's actually groups, I don't know if there's any in Seattle, but I know they're popping up in other
I don't
areas,
think I've
so
heard of any in
I
Seattle,
wouldn't be
but
surprised if
Well,
it happens.
probably
Yes.
How does one walk around with a mermaid tail?
You know the Jedi carry.
You
I
get
have pictures.
The mermaid carrier of
Yeah, the Jedi will carry
it's
it.
the wheelbarrow.
It's so Ariel, because in a zoo, so we had Ariel in a zoo, don't worry about it. And
sometimes they have to get their tails on before they sit down if there's no one to carry them.
Yeah.
You have to make a little tent for them around where they're going
Or
to sit. They
sometimes
change
they
to
have
the
a
tent.
company
Can't
for
really
their
manage.
feet and they just
You have another question as well?
Yeah, I wanted to do something with cosplay for high school community service hours. So what kind of opportunities are there for younger people?
You will have to make your own, but there is nothing wrong with that. You could create a toy drive with your school, get your fellow student body involved, or a food drive, or a school supply drive. Obviously, it's too late for this year, but next year, clothing drives, there's a lot you can do. You can even see if a group of your friends want to contact the library and see if there's something else that you can do there. Reading to kids as well is amazing. They love it, or any other character. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. You might have to get creative and find an organization that you're passionate about and see what their needs are and what you can do to help them, and then come up with ideas from there.
It's always about having the passion to begin with. If you have the passion and the drive to start something like this that hasn't been done before, like in your high school, if you have that, you can give that passion to others and get them involved, and then it just kind of
It spreads like wildfire.
it does once you figure it out. With cosplayers who are 18 years and younger, a lot of the 501 clubs, they won't usually accept members that young because it's just a liability issue. With the Mandalorian Mercs, we do have members who are 18 and younger, but the requirement is they have an adult cosplays with them.
We also have, I think, a 15-year-old Jubilee that cosplays with us. It's just, you go with the con rules, but
Yeah.
we don't really have a liability issue at this time.
I know heroic
Yeah,
requires
careful.
to be 18 or older, so if there's a group, I don't know if any of you are travels like these lovely ladies, but if there's a group you want to get involved with, you have to check with their requirements.
Some of them will let in 18 and younger, and then you can just tack on to there. And we're it's fun.
And for some of our events, we have in Heroic Inc. a couple of handlers that have children that dress up in cosplay and come with us. They're not members, but they're just there. And sometimes if someone takes a picture with them and wants to donate money, that's fine too. So it works.
Just all about having a guardian.
Yeah.
Is what I'm gonna be.
Any questions?
So, you're donating your time for the time that you're giving to the charity. Do you, in your taxes, do you file that, or do you just, it's not even part of the picture?
I don't personally, I don't know about anybody else.
I don't personally, only because I feel like it's too complicated to file that.
It'd
but
be
I'm
hard to
sure-
justify, honestly,
If-
when it comes to it.
I don't know though. You can usually do some sort of tax things for charity, but
But if you donate the
doesn't make
money
sense to
itself,
me.
you have to get a receipt, but for what we do, no.
but it kind of looks good on a resume.
It
Oh,
was
I got a job
fabulous.
because I put it on.
I got a job.
It really
So
looks good.
for the tax thing, I have had suggestions from coworkers that I should keep track of like how much I'm spending on my costumes and such because I predominantly use them for charity now.
Yeah.
So I may look into that one day, but right now I have not done that yet. I do know some people that do.
It's an
Some
option.
jobs, some jobs have like a certain amount of time you're supposed to like do with charities over the years. And I'm pretty sure these would count because most of us are charity groups.
My LinkedIn online actually says Heroic Inc. as one of my
Mine says CBCC.
current memberships. Yes.
My resume start at the very bottom. I had all my costume clothes.
Yep.
And that is how I got my job.
My resume has more volunteer than jobs now.
I don't volunteer because I usually do 4 jobs at a time. So that, don't do that.
I really like the legitimacy that cosplaying for a cause adds to my hobby. As I mentioned earlier, I am in the military and I do work as a professional. So for me to take off, hey, I gotta leave early on Friday because I gotta go to a convention and dress up
They
like a
understand
comic
it a
book
little more
character.
if you're.
If I say, it's because, I'm part of this organization and we have a booth and I have to go and man the booth. So if I'm not there, we can't raise money. Then they're like, oh yeah, go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm trying to help Make-A-Wish. Like, we have a Make-A-Wish event. We're trying to fulfill a wish for a
I
child.
gotta go.
Like,
Heard about that,
Go.
so they understand.
And then they look at you and they're like, oh, I heard you dress up in costumes and stuff. And you're like, oh yeah, I do it for charity. They're like, oh, that's so cool.
Dressing up for fun.
Yeah, because otherwise they look at you like, okay,
Why are you
weird.
dressed up? Oh, I'm raising money for Make-A-Wish.
And then
oh.
they get it. So
Yeah,
they're like,
it's
oh.
so much fun when we do
Then you
that.
don't have to feel like you have to explain yourself.
It's
Any
easy
other
to charity,
questions
really.
at this point?
How accepting have the different organizations been in terms of like body type? I mean, I know I personally would love to get more involved with this, but I'm not a size 0.
They've been
That's
awesome.
fine.
Not an
Very
issue.
nice.
Yeah.
It's more about your personality and if you fit with our group than it is about body type.
And how you interact with children. And I personally encourage people. We have in Heroic, I say we and it's no longer we, but in Heroic we have spouses that want to get involved in it and they're not size 0s because they have 4 kids. And I'm like,
Most of
just
us
do
aren't
it.
size
Come.
0s. We're normal people who love costumes. I mean,
Yeah, like right now I'm actually a size 12.
I'm a size
And I
10.
I go as Harley. I wear my Catwoman costume. I have tons of things that
you're-
are
Conscious about it, waist cinchers are fabulous.
I
I don't
wear them
think
all
I
the
know a
time.
single
All
cosplayer
the
who
time.
doesn't wear a waist cincher. So if you're wondering what their
There's
secret
undergarments
is,
that you can use.
Pretty much as long as your costume looks quality and good, that's all we care about. Like, if you show up in your costume looks like it was terrible, yeah, we're gonna
the
judge you,
Halloween
probably.
costume is
It's the
generally
kids,
not
you have to show
acceptable
the
for these
kids.
groups.
And
We want you to
kids
look good for
don't
kids.
care.
They really don't care.
If you show up as Ariel and you weigh 180 pounds, the kids are like, oh my god, it's Ariel. They don't care. And that's the most important thing, is that the kids care and they love the way you look and they love that you're there and that you're being that character. And we have people, you can have darker skin, you can have lighter skin than the character, it doesn't matter. We've recently started allowing more gender swapping as long as you're accurate to the character.
That debate's over.
We haven't had to deal with that yet, but I'm sure we would.
It's coming.
Yes.
Good luck.
So
But
it's
yeah,
much more
well,
inclusive.
actually, as long as the costume looks good, even if you buy it,
It's actually
as long as it
Loki.
looks good. You buy it somewhere, get a commission.
Oh, is that Fez head?
It's
This
fine.
lady Loki?
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
a lot of people who are
But it's
different
not
ways
Loki,
all the time.
it's Loki.
But
As a group.
yeah.
So yeah.
But she's amazing. She's
She
like
is.
she's like one of the best Loki's ever.
And just as a side note, even if you don't want to do charity, I say wear whatever you want. This is supposed to be for fun, so screw everybody else who has an attitude about it. That's my philosophy.
Word.
You don't need to be their friend.
Exactly, they're not good people.
If you feel good and you are happy with your cosplay, why should anybody else care? Enjoy it, rock it, it's awesome.
And there is like a little underlying, in the cosplay community, there are a lot of people who will judge. We judge because we have to have quality standards.
But it's your
We
But
judge about your
the
costume,
good thing
but
about
not
the
your body type.
costume clubs is they don't judge otherwise. So a lot of the costume clubs in Utah at conventions, they'll have like a safe cosplay haven sign, and so if anyone's getting harassed or having problems, then they go to the costume clubs. And it's great when you have a bunch of people in tactical gear from the Umbrella Corps surrounding you. You feel very safe.
Thor.
And we've had non-wearing mercs drag people to security for harassing our cosplayers. We don't get in trouble for it, but
It's
so
awesome
it's
too
great.
because if you don't have a good quality costume, they'll teach you different ways to
Oh,
make
We'll
it
make
better.
sure.
We
We will
love
teach you.
I'm
We won't
serious.
do
We
it for
love
you.
to teach.
And
We'll
if
teach
no
you.
one knows, YouTube
They're not
is
like, I'm not going to
fabulous.
tell you how to
Yes,
make
you
this
do.
staff because it's special and I made it and it's awesome and you can't learn how. They'll be like, oh yeah, I used like, rubber cement
I'll tell you everything.
and
We will literally
this
tell
golf ball,
everything.
like.
We have a question right here.
You said you teach, where can I learn?
Here is my
Online is
page.
awesome.
With the Star Wars
I have a
costume clubs,
lot
they
of
have
work in
parties.
progress albums on there. I tell you anything, if you have a question, just
And if
message
she
me.
doesn't know it, I promise
Yep,
YouTube.
I'll know
You don't know
something
how to
about
sew?
Figure it out.
YouTube. YouTube is awesome. Thought I saw another hand in the back. Am I hallucinating? That is highly possible.
We'll point you in the right direction if we don't know the answer to something.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
I
have
left mine at
cards.
home, but I will
And-
gladly
and I
write down my
have-
Facebook page and
I
email.
have
I have
their
personal cards, so
information.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I brought them. Okay.
And I could write down my name for you because, like I said, I changed.
I don't know if I missed it because I came in a little bit late, but you guys say you have local groups. I keep hearing about Utah and Arizona.
My local
Utah,
group is
right?
comic book characters for causes as well as Northwest Mutant Academy, so those are the two local
Northwest
ones.
Mutant Academy is
Oh,
more
and
of a
then
friend.
we have someone from the 501st back there. Is it 501st?
I am from the 501st,
Yes.
but I'm not representing the 501st.
So there's Star Wars,
know
there's
people.
Merc Club, the
This
501st
is
Legion,
a
Rebel
Halo
Legion.
Well, he's not 501st today, but
Not
he's with them, yes.
I was just gonna say, I started doing costuming a little over 5 years ago. And before I got involved, I didn't know how to sew. I didn't know how to work with all these different materials, especially those very important different types of materials, which is mostly plastic and sometimes metal. Once you start getting involved with these different groups, such as the 501st or the Mercs or Heroic, Northwest Mutant Academy, CDCC. I'm also part of a club called the Intergalactic Costume Alliance, which represents any sci-fi or fantasy costume.
Their local is the 327th. They
Their
just changed their
local is
Facebook
327.
name.
Basically,
It's a trend.
you meet people and they will help you learn all these different techniques. I mean, I went out, my partner had a sewing machine, so I was able to start using it. I'd never used it before. The next thing I thought about doing is actually buying a serger and seeing if I can.
I want to buy a surgery so bad.
But, you know, as far as body types go, before I obtained this costume, I was told, oh, no, you're too big. That was designed for a much smaller body type that will never fit on me. Well, it fits on me. It's just a matter of how you adjust the strappings and everything else. It's the same thing with a stormtrooper. My 501st costume is a stormtrooper. I don't have the ideal body type for that, but it fits me. It fits me really well.
And the costume looks amazing, which helps.
Yeah.
So back to the question about groups, there's also Harry Potter type groups. I don't know if there's anything local, Star Trek.
There's usually Disney Princess one.
Yeah,
The Disney Princess one.
I don't know the local one.
I don't. Yeah, since I'm from Utah, I mainly know that. That's why it's so biased towards Utah, because we only have one Seattle person here, and Mike in the back. But as far as other groups, you may have to do some research, but there's a ton out there.
There definitely are.
Like I said, there's potentially a mermaid group. I know that that's popping up everywhere, so.
And if there's not one that suits you, you can always work on
You
your
can always
own.
start one.
Yeah, and as long as if you do start your own, always reach out or try to reach out to the local costume club because
A lot of us have
they will help you.
information.
And there are some
We don't
people
mind
who are
helping.
members of several organizations.
Like,
Yeah, I'm in multiple
I'm interested in
organizations.
starting a new group, but I want to do something that's not going to compete so much with comic book character for causes. I'm so sad that they're actually going to start using Disney princesses because that was going to be my thing.
Yeah, we just do it occasionally.
All right.
Yeah, so you can do Disney Princess.
So I don't know if you want to maybe talk later, maybe we can come up with something because I'm also trying to do my own individual opportunities as well, so I can keep doing this.
It's fun being in multiple clubs. I won't say that it's crazy, but it's fun.
It's great.
Let's see. I think we have about 10 minutes left. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I actually just have something, because you were talking about being in multiple clubs, and I'm wondering about like scheduling. So if you're part of an organization that say, hey, we're gonna do this event, and you're like, I really can't be there.
You can
Like,
always say no.
yeah.
You can always say no. If you say you're going to be there and you don't show up,
Yeah,
that's a
that
different
would be
matter.
cool.
But if you can't show up to certain events, that's fine. We have a lot of members because of that.
Yeah,
Not everyone can show up to every
Speakers
event.
available, yeah.
It draws us too thin.
and that's why we have multiple people with costumes. So we have like two.
We have
Batmans
multiple of
and
the
two
same
Batmans.
costume. Yeah.
I actually have a question for these lovely ladies. What is your favorite event and or organization to work with? Let's start with
Many.
Missy.
You want one?
You have to take one. I'll give you two.
Fine. Okay.
I'll give you
All
two.
right, I can do two. All right,
You have
here,
10
here,
minutes.
here, go.
Don't go over
You
it.
got 2 minutes.
So
go.
for organizations, I like to go to the hospitals, so any organization that brings me to a hospital would make me happy. So it was actually FantasyCon that set up that for us to go there. So that would be my favorite, because I love going and seeing the kids when they're not feeling well, or you know they're in pain, but they're just brimming with happiness and smiling, and you can tell that they're forgetting about their pain, you know, at that time, and their discomfort and the situations that they're in. It's not about that at that moment. It's about being happy, and I love making that happen.
Mine is also related to FantasyCon. They're a really good, great convention. They're my favorite convention. Nothing against Geek Girl Con, but they're really cool. They opened up their convention an extra night early, so they opened up for a couple of hours on Wednesday just for children and their families for Make-A-Wish event and like autistic families. So families that normally wouldn't be going to the convention because it's too crowded, it's too noisy, people won't understand if the kid breaks down in the middle of the floor because they're autistic or they can't handle it. And like they line us all up at the entrance, and so there's like 100 cosplayers, and we're all lined in this little aisle. So they'll walk through us, and they open the door, and all these kids come through. And there are kids in wheelchairs, kids with like feeding tubes, and it was so hard. Like I had a mask on, so it was okay. I was crying because no one could see. So that's the best part of being Mandalorian. No one can see your face, and they always joke that you're blinking. It's funny. And that was like my favorite because it was just all these kids that. And their families who would never be able to get this, and they just get to come to this convention for free. And it was just FantasyCon wanted to do it, and that was FantasyCon is my favorite tour, but they're always doing charity events. They're so much fun. And then my second one, because I want to see it, was Make-A-Wish. They're always really fun. We just, the local costume clubs on Friday just granted a wish for a boy, and then our Salt Lake Comic Con in September, we granted a wish for a little boy who wanted to spend a day with Doctor Who. And that was really chaotic. We had a lot of problems going on behind the scenes.
It was also their biggest attendance day, so
it was
take that into effect.
It was horrible. So think of San Diego Comic-Con levels of crowd in a tiny room, and like tiny exhibit hall compared to San Diego Comic-Con. And it was, you couldn't move. So we got the Umbrella Corps people, and they formed a V, and they were just, get out of the way, all the way down so the kid could get where he needed to go. And he was dressed up as Doctor, and we made him the first Doctor, and he had to save Comic-Con. It was really cute.
Aww.
And we involved all the costuming clubs, because everyone had a booth, and it was just so much fun. He was so lit, I just had so much fun. Yeah, that was going to surprise you, even though I was freaking
I
out.
believe there's actually a YouTube video of this too that
There's a
keeps
YouTube
popping
video.
up in my Facebook feed, so
Yeah.
if you want to watch it.
And John Barrowman, we're not supposed to like say anything, but he helped a little bit, kind of associate him with Make-A-Wish, and then some of the other Doctor Who cast that we had there. They were so much fun.
I'm very partial to the disability community. That was an emphasis that I placed in my master's program. So any group or any event that I need to interact with those kids are my favorite, particularly NDA. I love going to their summer camp. They get so enthusiastic and they just want to play games with you. So we'll make up games. Like there was one time we did basically D&D, where they rolled dice and whoever got the highest got to have an attack against them. And it was so much fun, and just to watch them get into it.
I think it would be Camp Good Times. Camp Good Times is a camp around here where kids with cancer or their siblings can go to have a real camp experience without even having to think about their disease or anything. It's amazing because you see, when you go, we volunteer every year, I think for the past 2 or 3 years running now, and we go and they just are so happy to be there, and you can tell that some of them have been sick, but they don't pay attention to that. They get to have a real camp experience without having to have their disease as the forefront at camp. So we love volunteering for them. We love getting the word out about them. Recently, the Cancer Association, I think, disassociated with them because they felt like they needed to put their money towards research instead of the camp. So they've been having to raise money every year for the kids to be able to go. So it's one of our near and dear charities, just because we love them so much and we love volunteering with them, and we feel like we're giving back to the kids to just they have a great experience and they just love us being there. So.
Okay, so we have 5 minutes left.
Any other questions? I had questions and I forgot.
I forgot too. There was like a list.
Oh, there is a.
So did they have the organization here have you guys line up to, or do you guys were planning to come here and they have you guys?
I convinced them out of the kindness of their hearts to come help me.
I have family up here and I haven't seen them for
A couple of years ago, I was actually researching cons that I could go to around the country, and this was on my list. So when I was asked to come up here and do Geek Girl Con, I was like, yes, excuse.
I thought it
So-
also helped with the variety. There was, our other two panels that were gonna be here unfortunately had things come up, and they are also local representatives of different groups, so.
A lot of us, this is out of our own pocket, we love doing it. So most of us get our own badges and we volunteer our time during the con, and it's just because we love doing it and we love to give back.
Yes, in the very, very back.
That's actually one thing you make a very good point a lot of time. When you're doing this for charity work, you're not gonna ever be reimbursed for the work and time that you put into your costumes. And some costumes, especially for Star Wars clubs, can cost several $1,000s to do, like a Vader. Boba Fett is actually extremely expensive costume to do. And but the people wear them because of how much they love these characters and how much they love being able to go into the community and work with the kids. And that's the thing that is the most satisfying thing. It isn't just that you're helping these groups raise money, it's you're bringing smiles to kids' faces that, maybe, they've never seen these characters in real life possibly. And you walk up to this character, Stormtrooper, Vader, or Boba Fett or something, you will definitely put a smile on their face. Occasionally they'll scream out in fear.
If you're painted blue, they will be afraid.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They can't see your face.
One more question right here.
And you're talking about YouTube to learn. Look up community cosplay.
This gentleman, Green Arrows, recommending, how do you say that again?
Moving cosplay.
She's my favorite.
She is
If you want
amazing.
tips and tricks on how to do costumes.
She's from Austria, I think. And
Yeah.
Germany.
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 She was a solid comic
Yeah,
con.
she's
She's
amazing.
amazing. She's so nice.
She's got lots of tutorials.
But
Yeah.
while we have a few minutes, I just want to throw out another thought there, is you don't have to be in costume to give back to your community. If you don't have a costume right now and you want to give back, reach out to an organization that's near and dear to your heart. The more you value their mission and what their purpose is, the more enthusiastic and the better time you're going to have. You can go out tomorrow.
A lot of us
And
need
do something.
handlers too.
Yeah, pamphlets are very
You don't have to be in
important.
costume.
They help take pictures,
No
keep
pockets in
crowds.
this
If you have
outfit.
a
Yep.
costume issue, they can help you.
Get water for you. Their handlers are great. So you don't have to have a costume.
We
to
love
do it.
our handlers. But you don't have to have a costume to get involved if you are interested in giving back to your community. Every organization out there needs some help in some way.
Thank you all for
Thank you
coming.
for coming.